Hi, I'm Kevin Fleischman,
And I'm Marcy Robledo.
and we are two programmers over at the Over the Rhine International Film Festival in Cincinnati.
And we're also a couple of Gen Xers who love film. And welcome to the Gen X Lens, where we talk about films from when we were growing up, but then also how they tie to contemporary films today. So today, well, let's start off by are we watching anything new? Have you watched anything recently? What's going on in your world?
Well, I have been on a show kick lately. I called a couple Fridays ago Watch Again because we had not only Maverick coming out, we had Obi-Wan Kenobi and Stranger Things seasons 4. So I'm up to date on Kenobi. I've seen the first 3 episodes. They're fantastic. I didn't love the prequels back in the day, but yeah, this is a nice bridge to those movies. I'm really digging going back to that time era a lot more than I thought it would. I'm only a couple episodes in Stranger Things 4, which in Stranger Things is like one of my favorites, but I don't know, it's starting out a little slow, starting out a little mean. Like whoever makes this show, I guess the Duffer Brothers do. Man, they're just being so mean to all these characters. I've grown to love. And yeah, I saw Top Gun Maverick. I think you have too. Any thoughts you want to share today, or?
I have many thoughts, but I think we should table that for another episode so we can have more time to really get down and deeply with what we each think about it. And because yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. And I'm anxious to talk about it and just dedicate a whole episode to it.
There it is. I agree. I say we do that. What have you seen anything else?
So like you, I've been watching Kenobi. I have not watched Stranger Things. I actually have to go back further. I haven't kept up with Stranger Things. By that I mean I saw the first season, part of the second season, and that's kind of where I stopped. So I need to get reignited with that series. What else have I been watching? I think that's pretty much it. Oh, actually, my mother and I are going through How to Get Away with Murder marathons.
Nice.
So that's actually been occupying a lot of my time. So yeah, that's what's been keeping me busy. But I'm really, really anxious, looking forward to talking about Maverick. So
I'll just say this: not a great movie, but what a great time! What a great time in the theater.
It did what it was supposed to do.
Yep.
So, but today
Absolutely.
we are going to talk about Toy Story. So we're going to go in the Wayback Machine and talk about Toy Story. And so those of you who have watched Maverick, go ahead and comment below what you liked. Then also, as we go into the topic of Toy Story, let us know what you think about your experience when you watched Toy Story. And with that, I apologize. You may hear my dog terrorizing my cats. So with that, Kevin, I'll toss it over to you. And what are your thoughts about Toy Story?
Toy Story. So let me take you back in the time machine here. Where was I during Toy Story? I remember I did not see this movie in the theater. I think when I saw the commercials, I was 20, just turning 23 when this movie came out in 1995. And I thought it was probably just for kids. And it then turned out that I was working at a daycare center where I was like driving the little bus, like the parents would drop their kids off to the daycare center. Then I would drive them a little school bus to all their different schools. I'd pick them up and I'd hang out with the kids, the younger kids, throughout the day. And one day they had Toy Story on the TV for the kids. And man, it's like, I shouldn't have been paid for that hour and a half, because that movie took me away. Like I was just gone. I was so engrossed in that movie. I'm lucky no 2-year-olds scooted away or anything, or no accidents happened that was going on. But yeah, that's where I was when I saw this movie, and I remember just being in awe, really, at the technology, plus the story. I mean, the story was so good, but it was just so real. And I remember this feeling like I was in Colorado. I just moved from Buffalo, where I grew up. I just graduated with my English degree. You know, I had an English degree because I didn't want to be like trapped into a job like where if you had an engineering degree, you had to be an engineer. I wanted to like keep my options open until I realized, you know, I having an English degree doesn't actually qualify you for anything. So I was just in a time really where I was trying to figure out who I was. And in a weird way, seeing this new technology kind of didn't open up the possibilities, but reminded me of the possibilities of like, you know, anything can happen. Like I never thought I would see animation that well done. So that just kind of like gave me more confidence in the directions I went in after that. So it's kind of where I was back in the day of Toy Story. How about you? What are your first memories of this movie?
So I was about 25 when it came out, 24, 25 in Cincinnati. And at the time I was living in a shotgun house in Norwood, Ohio, which is a suburb of Cincinnati. And I lived with a bunch of guys that I had gone to school with. So it was myself and about 3 or 4 other guys. And we went to the movies and we saw it, and we were all just blown away by the technology, but then also just the nostalgia of the movie, of, you know, remembering the toys that we had growing up. And my brother definitely had those little soldier toys, so you know, remember that. And of course the music, Randy Newman, phenomenal musician, and all of my roommates were musicians, so I went to music school. Little known fact. I went to music school for a couple of years to be a music teacher, and then I had a little bit of an existential crisis. Decided not to go down that path. And so when I was 24, 25, I was working in restaurants and just doing that quarter life crisis thing. And so it's just
Familiar. I'm familiar with that.
it's a very strange time.
Working it. Yeah, working at a daycare center, I know that feeling.
So, but yeah, you know, just hanging out with my roommates and just being in awe of this new technology that was coming out. And little did we know that Pixar would be such a powerhouse of a production company, with merging technology with storytelling. And you know, just, I mean, the movies that have come out since then are just amazing, amazing. And I'm sure we'll talk
Yeah.
about them as we go on. But that's pretty much what I was doing at that time. And like I said, the music was just phenomenal. And Randy Newman just can encapsulate a mood, a moment, and just in one song, you know. So
Yeah.
that was really great.
Right.
So what were your thoughts in terms of seeing it second time as an adult, father, husband, you know,
Yeah.
bringing it to the future, or not?
Wow. Yeah. 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 Very different station of life. You know, I was just graduated college, world's my oyster, just trying to figure everything in the world out and having a blast doing it, to yeah, you know, having had a teaching career and being a parent right now, it's very different. I think my biggest the biggest thing that stood out to me that was different was my opinion of Woody and Sid. They kind of flip-flopped. I know we talked last time about Top Gun, like why, at least I raised the question, I think you kind of noted it too, like why did we hate Iceman so much? Like he wasn't that bad of a guy, really. It's amazing watching these years later again. So Woody, yeah, just a real jerk. Wow. Just what a jerk this guy was. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about Woody, or how to describe it. Just, you know, just the fear. One thing I think the movie did great is to capitalize on that that fear of being replaced, or fear of not being loved, or fear of losing your station within your group of loved ones, that's an incredibly deep-seated human drive and human need. And I like that that's what they gave Woody. But man, he goes a bit far. He goes a bit far to hold on to Andy. So he was a jerk. And then watching again, Sid, if these toys didn't talk, Sid's just a normal kid. We, as a former, I don't know how old he's supposed to be in the movie, but as a former 10, 11-year-old, I did some pretty heinous, awful things to my toys. And I think I'm a good person now. I don't think I was a bad person then. Yeah, I think Sid was a little misunderstood, but that was the biggest difference between watching it now and watching it then. And also, as in awe as I was of the technology back then, it still looks great. I think it holds up, but there's a couple things, like Andy's little sister, I forget her name. She's not terribly realistic looking. It's a little frightening, to be honest. How about you? How about the time machine then versus now?
I agree with you in the whole the deep-seated losing your station, being replaced, which that theme was definitely part of Maverick. That that.
Oh wow, yes,
Mm-hmm.
totally, yeah.
Very, very much a normal human theme that reoccurs in our human existence. And especially, as you're almost 50, I'm in my 50s, and just looking back throughout the career, and especially if you are in a corporate career or in a industry that you can be replaced by either machines or by the younger generation, which I have. I mean, I've been in marketing for my entire career, and in my mid 30s, I was already feeling the threat of being pushed out, which I kept saying, wait a minute, I have all this longevity, all this institutional knowledge. Why are you pushing me out?
Yeah.
Boss? Just because a millennial is supposed to have all this technological skills doesn't necessarily mean that they do. They just have to be born at this particular time. Whereas I've gone, I've been in the analog world and have transitioned into the digital world, and my problem is much more. But that's another conversation. But just all that to say is that it's very resonant to feel what Woody was feeling, because I mean, your job is deep-seated in your existence. So I really definitely saw that, because when I was 24, I really didn't have that experience yet. At that time, I didn't have the experience of being pushed aside because of a new generation was coming. I was the new generation at that time.
Yeah.
So seeing it now,
it's quite a feeling, isn't it, when you're not like the upcoming new generation anymore, is it, right? I mean, I think I'm about to start a whole new podcast episode, but like this whole like Gen X, like, I hear the millennials saying, move over, boomer, it's our time. I just want to like raise my hand. What about us? We're just getting skipped over. So yeah, it's like, yeah, we are not the up and coming generation, of course, but I don't even know if we're getting the usual like experience, the typical experience for a generation of being whatever that next, not the elders, maybe the elders. I
think
the stewards, maybe, like you've got the upcomers, you've got the elders, and then you kind of have that stewardship spot in the middle that the boomers have had for so long. Yeah, I feel like we're just kind of like getting elbowed out because we got two generations that have been named below us already.
Even though it's not being recognized, I think we are at that on an unconscious level when I'm talking, and I mean that by just culture, because of programs like Stranger Things coming in, and it's definitely set in the 80s. In fact, the furniture that the kids have in the basement,
Mhm.
I had that furniture. We had that furniture. That wagon wheel furniture.
Oh yeah. I
Uh,
didn't have the furniture, but I had the 20-sided die in my hand. I was a big Dungeons and Dragons kid.
uh, and right now, Kate Bush is trending.
Yeah.
Which that song was definitely on the radio when we were growing up. So in that respect, within pop culture, it is our shining moment, I think. But
Mhm.
in another way, it is very superficial. To your point, that the boomers are just not retiring. They're not not getting out of the way so we can step
They're
into
sticking
our.
around.
And then the millennials are right on our heels. Like, slow your roll. You've been bugging me for 20 years.
Yep. Yeah. Oh
So
gosh.
it's just a weird time for us still, I think. It's
Mhm.
unfortunately, I think we're just a small generation sandwiched between two very big generations of very, I don't want to say self-centered, but self-centered, self-centered generations.
Yeah. I mean, not that it's a bad thing, but I think a little more ego in the generations that we're being bookended by.
Right,
Not
exactly.
always, yeah. Ego's not always a bad thing, but yeah. Yep. I think that is.
So that was my biggest takeaway with the second viewing, is just really empathizing with Woody. And even though he acted like a jerk, I understand why he acted like a jerk. I'm trying to figure out,
Yeah.
like that. Perhaps, baby.
Well, I think yeah. I think they did such a good job of almost making all these toys human, not just by the technology aspect, but like we're talking about, like having these very very strong human drives. But I think about all the choices they made, even in that opening sequence. Like humans like to see themselves. We're very tribalistic in a way. I think they could have gone with completely fictional toys, right? They could have gone with toys that didn't exist, but they used toys that do. So I think that helped us see them as being more real. Um, the way that the teamwork and cooperation is so human-like, the whole operation to do the reconnaissance on the birthday toys that Andy's getting. Um, and even on one hand, it's a series of bad dad jokes in the beginning.
Yeah.
But really, linguistically, puns are the most difficult thing to learn in a foreign language, right? So like, it's actually a huge sign of intelligence to be able to make all this wordplay and all these puns and all these allusions. And that's one thing I saw on this go around that I hadn't really thought about before. But they really smartly, all these storytellers just did an incredible job of humanizing these toys. And I didn't appreciate that way back in the day, but I certainly did now.
Do you think that's because you've been a teacher and you're a father, and you've been around toys much longer than I have? But do you think that has played into your deep appreciation of these characters?
It's probably a lot more the teacher than the parent in me. Like kids these days, here I go. I'm going to generalize. Like we've been so, I've been complaining that we're being persecuted by other people generalizing about Gen X, but like here I go. I'm going to go out there. Kids today, um, they don't use toys with imagination as much as we used to. Everything beeps, everything moves. You want to buy the toy that like is the most realistic. Like there's a BB-8 doll from Star Wars that will actually roll around and go wherever. So I don't think it's the parent aspect as much as the teacher aspect. I taught middle school English for 23 years, and just learning so much about story in that time makes me more prone to analyze stories and like figure out how did, when I was younger, I never thought after watching a movie, how did they do that? And now I think about that, at least from the storytelling angle. I think about that all the time. So I think that's why I probably picked up on that, because I certainly watch movies for just sheer pleasure on a visceral level, but a lot of my enjoyment of film these days comes from analyzing it, really thinking about like how did they do that, why did they do that. So yeah, I think it's probably more from the teacher aspect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Years ago, well, I finally finished my degree, which is media. I have a BA in media studies and a minor in filmmaking.
Okay.
And so there was a period of time where I was going into production, and at that time the Great Recession hit, which there was no production going on. So I graduated a year's worth of production, and then everything dried up. But after that period, a coworker of mine asked me, because she was always asking me what I thought about movies and things like that. And she asked me, so how do you watch movies? Do you just watch them, or are you always analyzing them? I said, I think I'm doing both. And I get great pleasure of having both sides of the brain going at the same time. And which is why I think I really enjoy watching something twice, because I know I'm missing
Yes.
elements, because the other part of the brain is going, the technical part is, oh, they must have done this and that. So but yeah, I get great joy out of that. And I think movies like Pixar, when they are a demarcation of a new technology or a new style, that's exciting, because now we have in 20 plus years, about 20 years of Pixar films, so a generation of Pixar films, and we were there to see that beginning, and it's just so exciting. And the film Soul, which came out last year, which is another Pixar. I mean, you compare the two, and you definitely see the evolution, but the simple storytelling is still there, which is what I really appreciate.
I was thinking a lot about Avatar watching this movie, because I think, I'm sure I'm missing a bunch, but it seemed to me like the huge leaps in technology in the film was, Toy Story, and then Avatar was the next giant leap forward. And, how many years have we heard that the next, 5 Avatars, they're all planned out, but like still haven't seen them. I have to say, and I'm probably in the minority here, but I have no real desire to see any more Avatar films. I don't remember the movie. I remember sitting in the chair, I saw it in the theater, and just being amazed and in awe of what I was seeing on the screen. But and this is why I'm tying into Toy Story. Same thing on that tiny, the TV was like probably wheeled in with the VCR on the cart, in the daycare center, not HD, nothing like that. But I was still wowed by the technology in Toy Story, but I can't think of the right word, but it was the story. It was, that story was so good. And it's continued to be good, as you said. Pixar, their storytelling is fantastic. Avatar was lacking that. Like when I was watching Toy Story, it was weird. I don't like to think badly about other movies, but like I was thinking, yeah, this is what Avatar wasn't. Like Avatar was a great leap forward in technology, but it wasn't a story like Star Wars or Toy Story that we're going to be thinking about years and years later.
Okay, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, yeah, go ahead.
We're gonna have to do one of these analysis because the next Avatar is coming up. So it'll be interesting when we do our second viewings, the then and now perspectives, and see what we think about the stories. Because I haven't seen that movie in I don't even know how many years, but it's been a long,
Yeah.
it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I saw it the one time in the theater. That's it.
I've seen him a couple more times than that, but
Yeah,
but it's a long time ago. But we're having this conversation about Toy Story because Buzz Lightyear, the movie, although it is animation, is giving the backstory of Buzz Lightyear, and but there have been different sequels for Toy Story. And I think I've seen all of them except for the last one, number 4. Do you have any thoughts about those, or do you remember watching any of those or anything like that?
I have to say I am not super familiar with them. I've seen I've seen 2 and 3. I saw part of 4. I went to see it with my, at the time, 5-year-old, who got scared by the ventriloquist dummy goons that the doll has, and we had to leave the theater after that. He was out.
At 51, I would leave at the ventriloquist. I'm not.
Oh yeah.
I don't like this stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, I wasn't. I mean, I was complaining in my head, that I had to miss the movie, but like I couldn't give him any guff about that. Yeah, those are legit creepy. So, no, but I may have something a little bit to say about number 2.
Okay.
But I was thinking of maybe saving it for the last section of our program where we get into our own festivals.
Okay.
Because it kind of ties into that. I don't know if we're ready for that. I have not been watching a clock or a watch this time. I don't know where we're at.
I feel like we are. I feel like that's a good segue. So go ahead and talk about if you were to program a film festival around this particular film.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So for those of us catching up with us for the first time, we are film programmers. So we like to do a little game at the end here where we take the movie we're talking about, Toy Story today, and surround it with other films on a one-day film festival. What would we pair with it and why? So let me get my notes here because I got some notes. So this is a weird thought. This is something that came up the second time I saw it, and I think it's just because it seems like it's everywhere in movies today. Buzz Lightyear, right? He's a toy. And he goes, and now that we're talking about this, I'm getting this all messed up. When does he see all the other Buzz Lightyear action figures? That's not in Toy Story 1, right? That's in a different one. They're trapped in the store, so I want to say it's number 2, maybe. And he sees all the Buzz Lightyears. Anyway, that's not important. When he realizes he's just a toy, it seems to me that this is kind of not a metaphor, but a representation of the multiverse. It got me thinking about are there thousands upon thousands of Buzz Lightyear dolls out there who, once you rip the package open, think that they are Buzz Lightyear? All of a sudden you've got thousands and thousands of Buzz Lightyears running across the world. It's the multiverse. They all go on their own path. This Buzz followed the path of Andy and Woody. Who knows when Susie or Johnny or Karina buys their doll's going to go on another journey. So it feels very multiverse to me.
Good perspective.
And I thought I was going to tie that into when Woody sees the old TV show, and he kind of has the same epiphany. I believe it's in number 2 when they're trapped in Al's toy barn or wherever. So I'm going to go for my film festival on a multiverse theme here. Okay. And the first one I would pair it with is one of my favorite movies of all time, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Have you seen it? Please tell me you've seen it. Oh my gosh, it's got so many parallels to Toy Story in my eyes. Like, it's got a multiverse. Different, like in Toy Story, the multiverse, every Buzz is exactly the same, and they go through could go through very different pathways through their own separate hero journeys. In Spider-Verse, you've got Gwen Stacy, you got Spider Noir, you've got Peter B. Parker, you got the pig one, Peter Porker. it's so it's a little bit of different of a multiverse like that, but it's, again, it's my own little theory of the Buzz-year multiverse. Which, by the way, is, I know we're talking about this for the Lightyear movie coming out, and I'm very interested. I can't wait to see it. But how cool would it be to actually have a Buzz Lightyear multiverse movie with all the toys instead of the actual one? I thought that Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse also pushed the boundary in animation. That was a movie I remember watching in the theater, saying I have never seen anything like that before, and that was amazing. That was different. That was engaging. That was thrilling. Yeah, animation style wise, I had some very similar feelings to that one. So yeah, I'm gonna put Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse in the film festival. And then I'm gonna go with a very current movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Have you had a chance to check that one
I
out
haven't
yet?
seen it yet. Oh no.
You have to. You have to. Early running for my favorite movie so far of the year. Michelle Yeoh stars, when you meet her anyway, as a curmudgeonly laundromat owner who's way behind on her taxes, living a very, very unsatisfying life in a family of three. She's got a not teenage, I guess college age daughter. You've got, I'm sorry, I forget your name, sir, because I love you so much. Data from the Goonies is in it as her husband, and he's like amazing. He's like just adult Data. It's amazing. He's great. He's wonderful in this film. And she slowly learns that there are multiverses out there, and then it becomes, you know, it's kind of like going back to the Buzz Lightyear flavor of multiverse, in that she is her, but she goes through different journeys on life. And, you know, in one, she becomes an actress, and one, she becomes a chef or chef's assistant, I guess. And one, she becomes lovers with Jamie Lee Curtis's character, and Jamie Lee Curtis is just a treasure in this movie. She's amazing. It's a quirky movie. It's a movie that swings for the fences, unlike any movie I've seen swing for the fences in ages. It's just a super fun thrill ride, which again, I feel like we're talking a lot about this. That's a little tie into Top Gun Maverick. It's a super fun thrill ride of a movie. Yeah, and I would probably program that in like a Midnight Madness kind of. Oh, sorry here. I would probably program that in the Midnight Madness category, because it's, like I said, they swing for the fences. It's wild. It's pretty wild.
I would love to see
yeah,
that. I'm
oh
waiting.
yeah, you have to. So that's my film festival. We're gonna go in order, I think. I think we start out with Spider-Man, Toy Story. Go out, have a late meal, have a drink, talk about those great movies, and then go to the midnight screening of Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's mine.
That sounds like a good one. That sounds like a really good one. Mine, I'm a little more literal in the toy thing. So Big, Tom Hanks and Big. So
yes,
bring in that one. And then the voice, Tim Allen, Santa Claus. I think it was Santa Claus.
ooh, okay.
Tim Allen. Okay. And then closing it out with a classic, The Toy with Richard Pryor.
Oh, great call. Great call.
So those would be my three.
Nice.
So still very
Awesome.
much the toy theme. Of course, Tom Hanks and Tim Allen leading, but then that little gem, that little side secret of The Toy with Richard Pryor. And I remember watching that, I guess it was in the 80s. And it was on HBO. It was on rotation on HBO. And every time it would come on, I would always watch it. Richard Pryor's so funny. Just so funny. And if those of you who don't know the premise, Richard Pryor is kind of down on his luck. And I don't remember how he ended up being the toy for this really rich kid. but he ends up kind of taking care of this kid, but being this kid's toy. And he ends up teaching the kid some life lessons. So it's just a really great little movie. And so, yeah, I think we have some pretty good,
I think
we
that's
have
perfect.
a couple of good festivals here that we programmed.
Yeah, I would definitely buy a day pass to yours for sure. That'd be awesome.
And me to you too.
Yeah.
So those of you who have enjoyed watching us, let us know what your movie picks would be if you programmed a festival. And let us know what your thoughts are on Toy Story. And then also for a bonus, let us know if you watched Maverick, and just some brief thoughts. We are going to do another episode where we talk about what we thought about Maverick, Top Gun Maverick. So I can't wait.
I know. I'm psyched.
Good.
Yeah, and I was gonna brainstorm, but we'll do that after we're done taping. Yeah.
Okay. And so everybody, write down the comments down below, and then also don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the little notification button to let you know when we have another episode up. So until then, join us at the GenX Lens. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye. Stay safe.